This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling.
What the world is watching.
So it has been a while since I've done a video about AEW, and I understand I've been slacking. I know that I've done a few predictions for their pay-per-views. I've never stopped doing predictions for their pay-per-views. I still watch their pay-per-views. I still watch AEW Dynamite, and sometimes I've been catching Collision. I still like the product. I still think that AEW is an important part of professional wrestling. I think it does push the competitive aspects of the WWE, even though the WWE probably hasn't felt the pressure from the AEW in a long time. Probably the last time the WWE felt pressure from AEW, like, oh, we got to do something exciting because we got to take some of the momentum away, was when the AEW had CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, Kenny Omega was running with the Young Bucks in the Elite, and they had Jade Cargill, Shaquille O'Neal, Mike Tyson. I think that was the last time around that era, you know, and they still had Chris Jericho and John Moxley and all, and then Eric Bischoff was showing up, you know. I think that was the last time that the WWE was like, okay, they're trying to come for the crown. Ever since then, AEW has been trying to get back to that as far as momentum. Maybe they haven't been in a hurried up offense, to use a football term, but they've been trying. And I think they've been doing okay. They're working on establishing themselves and their brand, which I feel like is super important for AEW. Because if somebody were to tell you what AEW is, it would be hard for them to say anything other than, well, it's where a lot of former WWE wrestlers went and they do a lot of matches. And that's just not exciting to say that. You know, AEW needs to have a brand. They need to have an idea. You know, like, what are they known for? You know, they take a lot from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. They take a lot from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they kind of present it in their own way on primetime television. They put dressing on it. They dance it up a lot. But it's like taking pizza that's frozen and putting it in a restaurant and dressing it all up, throwing some basil on it, throwing some shredded Parmesan. And I don't mean to shit on New Japan or Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or anything like that, but I'm providing that analogy so that you understand that AEW isn't stepping out and doing its own thing. It's taking a few things from here and there, and then it's giving it to you on a wider frame with like a bigger audience, essentially, on prime time television. But that's not what AEW should be. AEW should be its own thing, right? And at one point it did look like it was having a little bit of an identity crisis. Cody Rhodes wanted to do his own thing. The Young Bucks wanted to do their own thing. Kenny Omega wanted to do his own thing. The women's division was doing its own thing. It just seemed like a bunch of islands that tried to converge, like a tour of all these different things, and that's been AEW essentially. And now that Tony Khan has come to the helm and decided to take full control, I haven't really seen a difference. I haven't really seen them go like, okay, this is what AEW is. Now look, I'll give you an example. When I grew up, it was ECW. ECW was that show that people whispered and that you were afraid to tell your parents that you wanted to watch, because you were going to get a lot of sexual innuendo. You were going to get a lot of violence. You were going to get a lot of people talking without censors. You know, they were going to say how they felt. It was in a very like dive bar, grungy warehouse type of a feel. ECW was that rebel company that you were excited to be included in their little club. That was ECW. WCW was like the NWA had a makeover and became more mainstream, right? Like WCW took this idea of the South, like Southern state wrestling, and said, we're going to go mainstream with this, and we're going to give you wrestling from all over the world, the best wrestling, and we are going to dress it up. But at that time, it worked because we didn't have the internet as viable as it is now. AEW trying to do it that way, just like they're trying to do with the random tag matches, the random 6-men. It reminds me of Mid-South in the 80s. It worked for that era because it wasn't so widespread where all you had to do was go on YouTube and type up something and you've seen it. People want a good match, they can go on YouTube, they can type it up and they can find it. Any good match, the greatest match that no one has ever seen probably has 10,000 views on YouTube right now. It is easily accessible. It's not like they're providing something that's exclusive. Like up until now, you couldn't see it unless you went to a VFW or if you were in Reseda or something like that. Like the way the internet works, it's not as exclusive and underground as it is. So this formula that AEW is trying to present, like WCW did on the Nitro years, like Mid-South did in the 80s, it worked for them because there wasn't a lot of access to that type of stuff. AEW is working in a system now where there's the internet and there's access. Now, you can't pretend like they don't know that because they expect you to know who's debuting. A lot of the times they started to get better at it, but like they got better with Mike Bailey. They're starting to wise up on like the Kevin Knight situation, but they're not telling us really who those guys are. They're not giving us a chance to get into their character. They're just like, you remember these guys? One was in Japan, the other was on the independent circuit. They had great matches. Remember Mike Bailey wrestled Kenny Omega on TNA? Well, if you don't, go look it up and then come back. That's who he is, and now he's in the ring. It's like they want you to do the homework. They don't want to tell you all of that stuff because maybe they feel like they don't have time. They're much more concerned about putting on a 36-minute epic to start Dynamite than to turn that 36-minute epic into an 18 to 17-minute epic and then use that other time, that other half of the time, to describe things, to be more interested in getting casual fans that are just tuning in to check it out. Now, they were trying to do that with Collision. They were trying to do that when they opened up after a good lead-in from the NBA playoffs. They started by letting you know, hey, 8-man tag coming up on Dynamite. Tune in. It didn't do a whole lot to get the fans to watch because I think Dynamite only did like 629,000, but it was better than what they did previously. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the previous week Dynamite did 558,000 or whatever. The whole point is I'm not here shitting on AEW. I am a pro wrestling fan. I know you hear that a lot because people like to mask the idea that they're shitting on something by saying they actually like it. But look, I'm an old school wrestling fan. I was one of the few old school wrestling fans that watched Nitro and Raw. Okay, I preferred Nitro because it came on earlier and I was young and I had to go to bed at a certain time. So what I would do is I would normally tape Raw and then watch it the next morning or the next day. So I got to tape Raw and then I got to watch Nitro live until things started to change. I got a little bit older and I could stay up a little later. But I was never one of those guys that was like, you'll never catch me dead rocking a WWF t-shirt or a Nitro t-shirt because I was pro this, pro that, pro whatever. I watch wrestling objectively. I give you my opinions on what I like and I don't like, and it really doesn't matter. I might like something that the WWE does on a show that I generally hated. I might watch something on AEW that I love on a show that I generally hated. Like I don't have the tribalistic mindset that's going to favor one over the other. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to keep it a buck. I did grow up a WWF fan. I grew up a fan of the WWF. Doesn't mean that I enjoy their style over any other style because I watched a lot of WCW and I watched that live. So that's just to show you where my mindset is as a wrestling fan. I said all that about AEW to say this. I think I understand what they may need to do in order to get some momentum. And it is an old school idea. And I know I shit on them for doing old school ideas. So I'm peeping all of this as I'm saying it to you. But you got to understand where I'm coming from. AEW, they should do a board of directors storyline. Because the WWE is basically doing a board of directors storyline, but it's outside the confines of their wrestling company. You don't see it on Raw. You don't see it on SmackDown. But there's definitely a war going on between the boards of directors, between executives, between shareholders. but we're seeing it play out on social media, and the fans are hip to that, and AEW should use that. And I'm going to tell you how they should use it. This is free game for any AEW writer. This is free game for any AEW fan to discuss in the comments. Let me know what you think of this idea. AEW should continue doing great matches, athleticism, pro wrestling for pro wrestling fans. But just like how they've sprinkled little sports entertainment here and there with the MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, which I think it's really good, and hopefully it does lead to the MJF Pinnacle reuniting. And they have the Toni Storm deal that she's doing, which is very much sports entertainment. Then they can do something like this. The board of directors. TK, Tony Khan, turning over ownership of the company to a board, and they battle with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega or whatever, like the shareholders, right? And they don't have to outwardly do it where it's an episodic thing, but they should assign a celebrity board of directors, because you got Dwayne Johnson, the final boss of The Rock, who is openly saying that he is the final boss, but it seems like he's like in charge in a way where it seems like there's a sense that he might be battling with Triple H, Paul Levesque, and Nick Khan a little bit over ideas. And I think AEW should play into that with their own storyline. And I believe to do that would make light of a situation that's going on in the WWE, and people would look at that and go like, that's funny or that's entertaining. And especially with Tony Khan, like, it doesn't seem like he has a cap on the budget as far as what he would use to fund this type of a company or storyline. So he should appoint a celebrity board of directors that gets they become shareholders, and they want to run stuff, and they openly fight with the Bucks. Tony Khan doesn't have to be involved. Tony Khan doesn't even have to give up all of his ownership. He could just say that I appointed a board of directors so that they can oversee things because things are getting out of hand. And I think if they're a celebrity board, I think it would be more interesting and enticing, because you can do like half wrestlers, half legends, half writers, or half celebrities. You can do something like David Arquette. You can do something like Jerry Lynn. You can do something like Freddie Prinze Jr. You can do something like Stephen Amell, right? Wrestling past. You can do a Shaquille O'Neal. And they don't always have to be on the show. And you can film vignettes to be on Dynamite where they're doing little segments in a boardroom, a war room essentially, and they're talking about the show, and you can have them interacting with some of the wrestlers backstage, and every now and then for pay-per-views they can show up and you can see them in their suites watching the show. I think it could be an interesting idea. It can help gauge more interest, and you can have it rotating, like the shareholders don't always have to be in the same segments. They don't always have to be together. You can see some here, some there. I really like the idea of David Arquette, because David Arquette is a professional wrestling fan, but he's also a huge actor. Very, very similar to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, where David Arquette not only is a wrestling fan, not only is an actor, but actually got in the ring. So that would be the best one, because you can use that. And I think you can also use Paul Walter Hauser. You can use wrestling legends and have them come in and do some segments as well. I mean, this could have really worked with Eric Bischoff pre the beef that apparently has simmered between Eric Bischoff and Tony Khan. That would have really worked. I think they can explore it, and they can do it what they will. I think it can bring a lot of interest into the product. I think it could be great from a marketing perspective as well. I don't think you need to retain like some of the actors that are wrestling fans that are trying to get into the business, deeper into the business and get more widespread in the business, like David Arquette and Freddie Prinze Jr. I don't believe you need to use them all the time, but you can film segments in bunches. They can help with storylines. I think that there's a lot that could be done with this story. I know it sounds out of the box, but look, I never felt like Tony Khan ever had a cap space. So he can put some money into this and really draw a lot of interest, especially for like the NBA playoffs. Like right now, they can set in motion something that by the next year, when they know the NBA playoffs are going to be coming, and I feel like the NBA playoffs next year is going to be even more hype than it is this year, with attention and interest. You can set that up to where the board of directors is doing something on the lead in to Dynamite, or coming off of the NBA playoff game, or on Saturday's Collision. I really think that is a way where casual fans will tune in going like, dang, David Arquette, Arn Anderson, the Rock and Roll Express, Freddie Prinze Jr., Shaquille O'Neal, they're all board of directors for this company. Like, oh, let me check this out. Let me see what's going on. And then the first match in is a match like Mike Bailey against Roosh. You know what I'm saying? Where like the athleticism, I think Roosh is super unique. Like I was watching this match on Collision this past Saturday. It didn't even seem like the match was well coordinated. It seemed like Roosh was just taking over the match, but it was awesome because that kind of like unpredictability was nice to see. And then he brawled to the back with Kevin Knight. I actually thought it might have been real. You know, I love that unpredictability. I was watching it going like, there goes my hero. Watch him as he goes, you know, like. So I think that they can do that by adding a little sports entertainment, by making fun of the WWE's board of directors, just poking fun a little bit, having celebrity guests do that, and then showing their athleticism in the ring. I believe that balance is something that's going to separate AEW from the pack, separate AEW from the WWE. Because right now the WWE, even though they're doing record, you know, they're breaking records as far as attendance, as far as gate numbers, as far as PLEs and all of this, they're breaking the records. There's a finality to that, and eventually they're going to start falling down the rungs. AEW has an opportunity to start building momentum now, so when that happens, they're the alternative, and the alternative looks sexy. That's all I'm saying, because right now there's just like matches going on, there's a few rivalries, there's a lot of similar storylines playing out. You can throw just a little spice on that with like that board of directors storyline, and you can mix it up and cause a lot of excitement. Imagine MJF having a backstage segment with David Arquette. Imagine the Bucks having a backstage segment with Freddie Prinze. Like, these are the things that you can do that would get you more attention in other avenues other than wrestling. Movies, people that love entertainment would tune in just to see that dynamic. It also help you go viral, because Shaq cussing out the Bucks could be money. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if Shaquille O'Neal or David Arquette or Freddie Prinze Jr. would even be interested in doing something like that. My idea was simply to say that the WWE, it isn't the end-all be-all, and they're not doing as good right now as people would like to say, especially a lot of the WWE fans. They're slipping, and I think the reason why, I mean, you're not seeing it right now. I mean, you guys can hit me in the comments all day long and say like, oh, what the fuck are you talking about? They're actually doing great. You can, the effects of what's going on now won't be seen until months down the road. And the AEW can capitalize on that right away. And I think it's stemming from the fact that the WWE doesn't feel like they have competition. They don't feel like their back's against the wall. TKO's coming in and they're trying to turn the WWE into UFC. Professional wrestling, in as far as what's going on in the WWE, it's not going to be the same. That's why they're buying up other companies. Because if you want to go see if you want to go see professional wrestling, you'll see it under their banner, but it'll be AAA, AAA. It'll be Evolve. It'll be NXT. And the WWE will be sports entertainment. That's what they're trying to do. You get a little bit of something for everybody. WWE Independence, WWE Mexico, WWE Japan, WWE Australia, WWE UK, WWE Canada, WWE India, WWE Saudi Arabia. Everything is going to be under the WWE banner. They're taking over the world. AEW can go at that. They can utilize that, and they can poke fun at that. It's no different than what the WWF did with the geriatric wrestling that they tried to make fun of with Billionaire Ted and the Huckster and the Nacho Man and all of that stuff back in the mid-90s when they were trying to compete with WCW, when WCW was crushing everything and the WWF was trying to keep up. They made fun of it, and it made them look more edgy, made them look more cool. It was hilarious. They were making fun of the ageism in WCW. So that's all I'm saying. I think that Tony Khan, if he's so inclined, he can do something like that, and that's all it would take, really. He doesn't have to stop doing great matches. He doesn't have to stop doing the way that he builds to bigger events and whatnot. He's still got great talent on the roster, but just something like that, I personally feel, will gauge more interest. It will get more people tuned in, and I think it would be better overall for the company and everything going forward for AEW. So when the WWE falls, AEW will be there to climb higher up the ranks of that ladder and make sure that the WWE can get competition. And that's when I feel like the WWE is at its best, when its back's against the wall and it feels like it needs to compete. So that's just my 2 cents. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for coming out to the Portal of Pro Wrestling. As always, this is the Wrestling Old Head. Stay tuned for more.